Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. In the last video we fixed that P1 lip. So this week I got in my PCI splitter brackets, so we're going to start making a splitter. Right now I'm going to show you where I plan to mount them up because the bumper's already off the car from the last video. So let's get started. So the first step to installing the splitter brackets is normally down here you would have the OEM tow hook, but I have this traction bar. I like using this for the front jacking point because I don't like jacking it up on this JDM cross member. And plus it also kind of gives me some insurance. If that scrapes, I know the oil pan's going to scrape and I really don't want to bust that open. So my plan is to install these down here on the side. So I took the splitter bracket and I put a 3/4 inch piece of wood on there. That's all I had laying around, just a thin piece. And I held it up here. As you can see, I marked out the holes where it'll be sitting flush. And if I put it on there, it does clear the traction bar. I don't know if you can see that, but it does clear. So these are my marks here. This is the only one that looks like it may have a slight problem with because of that factory hole there. But I did it on the other side too and there's no holes on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill at the lowest point on each hole on both sides, and I'm going to install riv nuts. I ended up drilling the holes and I used the riv nut gun to put it in there. So I'll show you that real quick. See, riv nut in there. So it came with these Allen key bolts. I added a washer and a lock washer. So the way that it's installed now, it is all the way down, which is pretty low. Let's reference 2 fingers from the ground, but it'll go up, and I got a little wiggle room left and right. So right now I'm just going to throw the bumper on and grab the piece of plywood and try to sit it under there, and grab the splitter and try to set everything up. Alright, so right now I just have the bumper sitting in the lip. It's not even sitting on the lip how it's supposed to, but I just want to make sure that the shape is right. So if you look really close, you can see my pencil line. I just set it close to the edge, went all the way around. So now I have my base of the actual shape of the bumper. So from right here about center out is 4 inches. And I mean, that looks decent to me. So I'm going for 4 inches. So I guess I'm going to take my tape and mark 4 out, 4 out, 4 out, and maybe try to take the lip and move it forward and trace that. So let me mark my spots out and then we'll see how it goes from there. Alright, so originally I had my pencil line right here. I went back with a marker and marked it. And I wanted to make the lip of the splitter about 4 inches. So from here to here is 4 inches, and that's about the middle if you count the little slits in the bumper. So right here, 4 inches. So I tried to take the tape measure and mark dot, 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 but that was taking forever and it wasn't really that accurate. Because if you look at my line now, it hit there, it hit there, it was off there. So what I did was, got a piece of wood. It's 4 inches across from here to here. So I just took one side of the wood. Obviously you have to do this with 2 hands, but I held a pen right here and I just dragged the piece of wood all the way against the edge of the lip, all the way around. I kind of moved it like inch by inch and then did it on this side. That's why this line looks a lot darker and choppier. But if you look on this side, when I just pushed the wood and held the pen, it's a perfectly straight line. So now I'm debating, do I want to taper this off like to that somehow, or keep it like this and then eventually mount like a piece of metal here that kind of like a wheel spat or something to keep the air from going in the wheel well. But I think for right now I'm just going to keep it like this because I can always go back and trim it. And I did buy an extra piece. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this is a piece of 1/2-inch birch that I purchased from Home Depot. I think it was like 46 bucks for the sheet, and then I just got them to cut it in half, and I was able to fit this into my ILX. So right now I'm gonna get the jigsaw, I'm gonna cut this out, and then we'll work on trying to mount it up to the car and see how it looks. So it's all cut out. I did a pretty good job cutting it out. It's not too wavy. I may take the sander and just go over the edges just to get like all this roughness off. Should only take a minute to do that. But let's try to take it down to the car and try to get it mocked up with the bumper on the car, so that way we can drill the holes for the 2 brackets on each side. So here's what the splitter looks like on the car. Looks pretty good, fits pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it the way it sits. The only issue I'm having right now is the lip right here is sitting up about a finger's length too high. Down in here, the splitter needs to be trimmed around the exhaust manifold. I kind of drew a rough line. It's going to be a little bit bigger than it should be. And then if you can see down in here, the bracket's not touching the wood. I think it needs to come up on the back end. Well, I think the exhaust manifold's holding it down. So I'm going to pull the splitter out right now. I'm going to trim that little piece for the exhaust, but I want to mount the lip to the bumper where it needs to be sitting, and then get the splitter mounted on how I need it to be. Alright, so I kind of skipped ahead a bunch since the last time I picked up the camera. And I have the lip mounted to the splitter, and as you can see, this is not usable. It is so low that a brick doesn't even clear. We can't have that. I don't know how people like Vasily, I'll post their car right here, have so much clearance, because I'm not sure, because my lip is flush right here where it's supposed to be. It's a 1/2-inch piece of plywood, just like P1 would tell you. So I have no clue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the splitter off, and I'll show you how I mounted that P1 lip, just in case you're going this route. But I have like a different idea that I'm going to try. So I'm going to pull that off. I'll show you how to mount it, and then I'm going to take the splitter brackets and I'm going to raise them all the way up so I could get as much clearance as possible. So this is what the splitter looks like off the car. I cut a hole in here so a jack could fit underneath and hit that traction bar that I use to jack up the car. I took some 2-inch angle brackets and I cut them in half and screwed everything in. So this is all one piece. I didn't put anything on the ends, that way I could flex this around the bumper, and then I would just put a screw on each side, but that didn't work. So right now I'm just going to grab my drill, take out those little brackets that's holding the lip on, and I'm going to put this back on the car, but I'm going to raise the brackets all the way up and see how much clearance I can get. Alright, so now you can see a brick could actually fit under there. We have some good clearance now. We're at 3 inches. Just under 3 here, but this alley is slanted. But the brackets are all the way up on both sides, and we're about 4 inches on both sides. So I'm gonna run to Home Depot to look for a garden edge and lip, because unless I upgrade to 17s, splitter ain't happening. So let's run to Home Depot. This is the air dam I decided to go with. This is some garden edging I picked up from Home Depot. Like $25 per roll. So I'm gonna have to trim this down because it's 5 1/4 tall and kind of hangs past the top a little bit. So I was thinking about cutting it down to 4 1/2. So if I cut to the bottom of this green line, that'll give me the 4 1/2 that I need. So basically, I just got it clamped on both the edges, and I'm gonna end up cutting this side a little bit extra, and then I could trim it down afterwards. But I think this is going to work out perfectly. It doesn't look too bad once the splitter blade, the plywood is coated with black. I think it'll match pretty good, and I'm going to end up flipping the garden edge into the other side because it's all black. So that looks pretty decent. Once I put in the brake ducts, I'm probably going to have to trim the air dam a little bit to fit around them. So right now I'm just going to cut that edge to a usable side, and then I'm going to trim it down to 4 1/2. I'll cut it down to 4 inches, and I flipped it around so the black side's in the front. It's pretty cool because this is kind of wood grain, kind of like the way it looks. But I stuck my brake ducts in there, just taped in, because I'm going to have to cut a little bit around here. So I'm going to mark that with a marker. I'm also going to go around and mark this whole front piece with a marker so I know where the air dam has to sit. So I have my bracket started. I just took the piece that I cut off, the little 1-inch piece, and I just used some clamps on the edge, lined it up with the line. This one could use another bracket right here, but it's pretty close to the line all the way across. I'm happy with it. I just want to take a tape measure and make sure it's the same distance all the way around before I put the second screw in. These are 2 1/2-inch just regular L brackets, corner brackets, and then I'm using these 1/2-inch number 12 bolts just to secure it in. So it looks pretty good. Just going to measure here, and then I'll go back and put my second screw in. I did not cut where the brake ducts go because I actually want to wait until I get it mounted to here, just in case it shifts a little left or right. I still have the exact spot where the brake ducts are, so I'm going to do that last. Alright, so here's how it looks again. So I took some measurements, and something's not sitting right. I have 3 inches here, 1 3/4 here, 1 3/4 here, 4 here, 4 over here. But if I go all the way back in this back corner, I only have 3. And on this side, on this corner, I have 4. So I originally cut this out with the other P1 lip. So maybe that's why it's sitting weird. So basically, I'm going to go on the 3-inch side, and I'm going to measure from since this back part of the splitter right across here is a factory edge, so I know it's straight. I'm just going to take a piece of cardboard that has a factory straight edge on it. I'm going to mark up like about 5 or 6 inches, and then trace this up into a certain point. Cut that out. If I come in 4 inches on the other side, I'll have to come in 5 inches on this because of the extra inch, and then hopefully I should get the same shape back. So like I was saying, I have 3 1/4 right here. So what I did was I marked 4 inches in, took a piece of cardboard, sat it underneath, and I traced it. So then I got the shape. I flipped it over. I came to this side. I need to get rid of an inch, so I measured 5 inches in, and I sat this down on this side, traced it out. So that pencil line, not the marker, is what I'm going to be cutting off. And I measured it in a bunch of different spots, and it's going to be exactly the same as the other side. So I'm going to use the jigsaw, cut that off real quick, and then remove these brackets, and then we're going to start spraying this with the undercoating. Alright, so I pulled off the brackets and I taped off the studs. I cut this side. I ended up just sanding around the edge. So right now we're going to lay down some undercoating to protect this wood, just from moisture or whatnot, because wood and water doesn't really mix too well. So I'm going to be using 3M professional undercoating. This is some stuff I had laying around. So I'm going to coat the top, let that dry, flip it over, do the bottom, and make sure I get the sides real good. So the undercoating's all dry now. I have the air dam clamped onto here. I'm going to go through, starting at one side and work my way around and drill out the 2 holes right here. And use these 3/16 rivets with this pneumatic rivet gun. You can use a hand one, but I have this from when I did all the rivets in the car. And just work my way around, and then when I get over here, I could trim this side straight down and we should be good to go. Alright, so here's a splitter on the car. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. There's only one thing that I'm not too happy with, and that is right here. I got some bacon neck going on. Not a big deal, I'll just add 2 more brackets and that should flatten that out. But overall I'm happy with it. For I think it was $100 altogether. It's $50 for the plywood, but you get 2 splitter blades out of that, and a roll of guarding edging was $25, and then just your $25 worth of hardware. I had the rivets laying around, the L brackets, a couple screws, and don't mind the brake ducts being taped on. I lost the bolts for them, so I gotta go get some new ones. But it wasn't too hard of a process to build. Kind of disappointed that I couldn't use the P1 lip. Wheels are too small. I'm going to need at least 16s or 17s. I asked about it on one of the Integra forums on Facebook, and everybody that posted it up is running 16s or 17s besides one guy. He had 15s, but his splitter was as low as mine when I first put it on. So if you have any questions about this process, feel free to ask below. I'm going to keep pushing ahead and trying to get some more stuff done to get this car track ready. I think maybe next video, maybe doing a duct for the radiator. We'll have to see how that goes. So until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Back at you with the realness.